Okay, so I think we're recording. All right. Gordon, if you're ready, I'll go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks everyone for attending the virtual Inspiring Abilities Expo. My name is Audria and I am a Fuse board member. I would like to just go over a couple of housekeeping items before we begin. This session is being recorded and will be accessible on the Fuse website. Please consider this when sharing or asking questions. I will also ask that you remain muted unless asking a question. I will be monitoring the chat box, so please feel free to ask questions and I will let our speaker know as questions pop up. I'm excited to welcome you to this morning's session on government benefits, special needs trust, and ABLE accounts presented by Gordon Holmes. Gordon is a certified financial planner professional whose practice focuses on financial and estate planning for families who have a child or dependent with special needs. He has a unique perspective through his experience, both as a financial professional and parent. So please help me welcome Gordon Holmes.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks so much. We have several topics to cover and an hour to cover it, so we're going to get started right away. As was indicated, questions are welcome, and just unmute and speak up, and we'll handle them as they come. There's unlikely within the context of an hour that we'll have much time left at the end. So let me do screen share and we'll get rolling. Okay, first up is government benefits. And hopefully the PowerPoint is showing. If anyone cannot see the PowerPoint now, if you would please unmute and let us know. Again, government programs and benefits is up first. So I'm a special needs planner, and my team and I, we serve the special needs community throughout the state of Indiana. I have an office in Indianapolis and in addition, an office in Louisville for families in Southern Indiana and down in Kentucky. The material that we cover today will be Indiana specific as things vary by state. And so let's get started. Special Care is a division of MassMutual, the large financial and insurance firm. And this is how we're able to bring educational programs and the services under Special Care for the special needs community. I do a lot of education, a lot of speaking, national conferences, state conferences, parent support groups. Also I do a lot of parent information nights for school corporations and special needs co-ops. So we try to educate and advocate for the special needs community. As was indicated earlier, I have a son with special needs, and so my journey with this began about 22 years ago. And over the years, we've expanded in terms of both our geography of how much territory that we cover and the help that we're able to provide special needs families. This morning, we will touch on SSI, Ssdi, Medicaid, waivers, and Medicare. And let's start with SSI. So SSI, again, stands for its Supplemental Security Income. SSI is a monthly stipend for food and shelter that can be available from birth for a young person that has special needs or disability on up through their life. The ability to qualify for the benefit while a minor is tied to family finances. So non-medical federal income supplement funded by general tax revenues as opposed to Social Security taxes, designed to help the aged, 65 and older, those in other words that are retired but have no Social Security retirement, the blind, and people with disabilities who have little or no income. Disability is expected to last more than 12 months or result in death, and provides cash to meet basic needs for food and shelter. The maximum benefit for 2021 is $794. The benefit for individuals receiving in-kind support and maintenance, $529. So those are the two most significant benefit amounts as it relates to SSI, monthly benefit amounts. SSI is tax-free, both federal and state, and we'll speak in a moment about how the benefit amount is calculated. To be eligible, available resources must be kept under $2,000. So if an individual receiving SSI, if their resources such as checking, savings, CDs, government bonds, cash. If their resources rise above $2,000, then they cease to be eligible for SSI, and their SSI benefit will stop. So again, best to keep under the $2,000 at all times if receiving SSI. If an individual has more than $2,000 at the time of application for SSI, they likely will be declined or turned down for benefits because of that resource issue. At the age of majority, eligibility is based on the child's income, not the parents'. So the benefit of being 18 or over for an individual with special needs is that it's no longer tied to how much parents make or how much money the parents have, this type of thing. It's solely based on the individual themselves, the consumer with special needs or disability. And so that's why many parents apply for SSI at age 18 for their child with special needs, because again, their income, their assets, retirement accounts, et cetera, are no longer a factor in calculating eligibility. As far as how the SSI benefit is determined, Social Security looks at the first $20 of any type and waives any effect on SSI. They also look at the first $65 of monthly earned income. So those two are not counted. So basically the first $85 not counted. Thereafter, it's a $1 reduction for each $2 earned unless the individual receiving the benefit is still in school. And being in school can qualify them for a student earned income exemption, as you see here. And that provides that if they are under 22, because the exemption ends with a 22nd birthday, but if they're under 22 and they're in school, so still in high school, either pursuing a diploma or certificate of completion, or they're post-secondary, maybe taking some classes at Ivy Tech or a technical school, or that type of thing, then Social Security gives them a pass on their earnings and does not reduce their SSI benefit. So that's up to a maximum of $7,770 per year, which is certainly enough in most cases. So if a young person under 22 who's still in school gets a part-time job and is earning $500 per month, it would not have an adverse effect upon their SSI benefit. But a lot of parents are not aware of that, report wages, and do not document with Social Security that they're still a student, and the benefit is reduced unnecessarily. Child support also affects SSI. Prior to age 18, Social Security waives the effect on 1/3 of the child support, but once they turn age 18, it's dollar for dollar. So if the 18 or 19-year-old is receiving $200 in child support, then that would be a $200 reduction on their monthly SSI benefit. And consumer must be 18 or over if parents' assets or income are not to be a factor. Monthly contribution toward food and shelter comes from 10 categories of expenses. So if you want to know how to justify an SSI benefit, there is actually a Social Security worksheet. And I will mention, as a result of sitting in on the program this morning, I'm pleased to provide or make available to you a free follow-up consultation on an individual basis, absolutely no cost. And it can be done either in the office on the north side of Indianapolis, we're basically at 96th and Meridian Street, or it can be done virtually by Zoom, or similar to how we're doing this today. But again, at absolutely no cost. So during that time, we actually can take a look at the Social Security worksheet and help you put together a monthly budget, or shall we say the monthly contribution toward food and shelter expense for your loved one with special needs, because that does help to drive the SSI benefit amount. Again, resources have to be kept under $2,000 for the individual receiving benefits. And then if you're interested in knowing what the cap is for earned income for 2021, it's $1,310 per month. That's the amount of earned income an individual with a disability or special needs needs to stay under. If they exceed that limit, then Social Security will no longer consider them disabled. And as a result, they would undermine eligibility for SSI or Ssdi. So a very important income limit, $1,310 per month, that adjusts annually based on inflation. We've already talked about the earned income student exemption, so don't overlook that. If your loved one with special needs is under 22 and still involved with school, that's a really nice gift that they get. And the effective child support, and then the benefit in applying for SSI prior to 22. So if your child's 19 or 20 and you've just not gotten around to applying for SSI because they're maybe still in high school or something, and you figure you'll get to it later, there is a watershed at age 22. It's really best, if possible, to apply for the SSI benefit before 22 so that they are in the Social Security system based on their diagnosis, special needs, or disability. That can be very beneficial later if you want them to potentially qualify for adult child benefits and draw off of your Social Security record, which brings much higher potential benefit amounts than $794 for SSI. Be prepared to appeal. Social Security turns down most applications. More people are approved on appeal than they are the first time around. So if you apply for SSI and Social Security says no, then just plan on appealing. Try to meet the time deadline for submitting your appeal. In most cases, I think it's 60 days. That keeps the claim active. And so eventually, if you're successful with your claim, then Social Security will owe for the back months. If you allow the claim to expire, meaning you do not meet the timeline for appeal, then you have to start over and Social Security is taken off the hook for delivering benefits for those interim months. Okay, let's look at employment and SSI because this is coming up more and more often as the work pool is strained and employers are looking for people, restaurants, retail, et cetera. And our children with special needs are perhaps a little more likely to have a part-time job now than they might have had 10 years or 20 years ago. So we've got a couple of examples. David is age 16 and he gets a job at $10, age 18 and gets a job at $10 per hour. He is a student, works weekends with a total of 8 hours per week. So he's just 18, he's still in school, but he gets a part-time job for the weekends, 8 hours a week, paid weekly, and therefore he's earning $80 a week, 8 times the $10 per hour. In a 4-week month, his total compensation would be $320. David receives SSI. Due to the student earned income exemption, David's SSI benefit is not affected by his wages. He can receive his $794 per month in SSI in addition to earning the $320 per month from his part-time job. So that's pretty sweet. There you're, what, about 800 plus 320. So now we're at $1,120 per month. So that's pretty exciting. Again, due to the student earned income exemption, it actually creates an incentive for our children with special needs under the age of 22 to explore or experiment with employment. And that's extremely valuable. Susan is 21 and no longer a student. She has a part-time job working 20 hours per week, earning $9 per hour. She is paid bi-weekly, earning $360 every 2 weeks. In a 3-paycheck month, she earns $1,080. The first $85 earned will not affect her SSI because, as we discussed earlier, $65 of earned income and $20 of any income for a total of $85 is not considered. The remaining $995 of that $1,080 will be reduced by $1 for, sorry for the typo, each $2 earned. So $995 would convert to a reduction in SSI of $497.50. So $794, the full benefit amount less the reduction of $497 means that she would receive an SSI payment of $296.50. So in that case, she's getting almost $300 of SSI, and that's in addition to the $1,080 that she received from her earned income. So we're in that case, looking at over $1,300 per month in total income between SSI and her employment. So hopefully a couple of examples that will be helpful to frame how these benefits work. We have a third one. Jerry is dual eligible and receives $400 per month of Ssdi and $394 of SSI. So this is because Jerry is dual eligible, meaning in addition to $400 per month of Social Security disability as a result of his employment history, he then receives the balance of his $794 per month from SSI. Jerry is employed at $10 per hour and works 24 hours per week. He is paid biweekly. He grosses $480 every 2 weeks. In a 3-paycheck month, his total gross is $1440. So again, in this case, he's working 24 hours a week. So he's working a little more, kind of on the heavy side of part-time. And at $10 an hour and 24 hours per week, that's $240 a week, or for 2 weeks, $480. So if he happens to be in a month, and there's usually anywhere from 3 to 5 months per year where a person that's paid biweekly is going to get that third check. So in a 3-paycheck month, when you take the 480 times 3, it's 1440. So that's a problem because his earned income at 1440 is exceeding the 1310 that we talked about earlier. This will cause him to lose his Ssdi benefit of $400. At his earned income of 1440, Jerry would also lose SSI. That's a problem, as loss of SSI may put his Medicaid and therefore Medicaid waiver services at risk. So for Jerry, in this case, it would be best for him to stay under $1310 per month, where he could receive $1,300 as an example in earned income and retain his $400 in Social Security disability income, totaling $1,700 per month. So as you can see with these examples, it's important to know the limits and the guidelines in order to maximize on opportunities. But that's pretty exciting for Jerry because by maintaining eligibility for these benefits, he can have up to staying under the 1310, he can have that earned income, he can have his Ssdi, he can maintain his Medicaid waiver services, and also Medicare as a result of being eligible for Social Security disability. So knowing the limits, again, enable you to maximize on opportunities. Pretty exciting stuff. Let's move on to Social Security disability benefits, including adult child benefits. So Ssdi pays benefits to adults who have a disability that began before 22. So these are situations where, Social Security has documented the disability predated 22. Back to the earlier slide, the benefit of applying for SSI before 22 so that Social Security has the individual in their system with the diagnosis and disability prior to age 22. So if the disability originates prior to 22, they're unmarried, or if married, they're married to someone of similar circumstances, then with an earned income under $1310 per month, or $2,190 if blind or visually impaired. There's a special carve out for the visually impaired community. Then they can be eligible for this disabled adult child benefit. So the benefit can continue throughout their lifetime, and the child's benefit because it's paid on a biological or adoptive, in some instances, a step-parent Social Security record. So for an adult with a disability to become entitled to this child benefit, one of the parents must be receiving Social Security retirement, Social Security disability, or be deceased. So there is some criteria, but when a parent has a triggering event, death, disability, or retirement, then the child with special needs can draw off of their record. And the benefits are really substantial. And so it pays in most cases to maintain eligibility for this benefit. In most cases, it's by staying single, not marrying, keeping earned income under the $1310 per month, and then being able to document the disability prior to age 22. So Social Security disability off of one's own wage record. So in this case, it's a surprise to many parents that their child in their 20s become eligible to draw Social Security disability off of their own wage record. And that's because it only takes part-time earnings to be eligible for Social Security disability from one's own income. So SSDI may be paid from a consumer's own earnings record. 4 quarters of Social Security are earned in a year with $5,880 or more of earnings. So if their part-time job is generating $500 per month in earnings, then they're becoming insured for Social Security disability, and they can be eligible to receive benefits after as little as 2 years. So it's not the 10 years like older adults. For our young people, they can become eligible to draw Social Security disability after as little as 2 full years, calendar years of employment. So SSI and or SSDI can coexist well with part-time employment. So please do not be concerned or afraid of income undermining their benefits. Unlike SSI, SSDI does not require resources be kept under 2,000, but Medicaid does. So as long as the Medicaid component is involved, we need to keep resources, checking savings, et cetera, under the 2,000. The benefit of SSDI is not only that it comes with Medicare, but there's no reduction in SSDI for earned income. So a consumer can earn $800 a month from their part-time job while receiving $400 a month in SSDI, still keeping their Medicaid and their Medicaid waiver. So this is kind of learning how to work with the system in order to have it all. Earned income and Social Security income, Medicaid, Medicaid waiver services, Medicare, and so forth. It's possible to have all of those benefits simultaneously. Okay, so the consumer becomes eligible for Medicare 24 months or 2 years after they start receiving SSDI benefits. The child benefit amounts can reach as much as $2,000 per month, drawing off of a parent's record. So as I mentioned before, these benefits really get quite significant. To maximize the child's benefit, the highest parent wage earner, meaning the father or the mother that has the biggest earnings history, would drive their ages up to age 67 before starting to draw their Social Security retirement benefit. So if you want to know how your adult child with special needs would get the largest Social Security benefit off of your record, it is to wait until age 67 typically, and be earning strong right up to that point. That's where we find records that bring about larger benefit amounts for the adult children. Okay. Medicare, again, comes with Social Security disability. And in many cases, the son or daughter with special needs is on Medicare before the parent, that is, before the parent turns 65. But how does a young person have Medicare? It's because it's associated with SSDI, Social Security Disability Income. Again, not to be confused with SSI. Medicaid in Indiana requires that the individual, of course, have a diagnosis, also that their resources are under $2,000. If they are under 18, then Medicaid most often comes by application for a Medicaid waiver. If they're 18 or over, they either have Medicaid because they're already on a waiver, or they receive Medicaid because of applying for SSI. Okay. Let's get to waiver programs, spend a moment on that, and then next we're going to move on to special needs trusts. But Medicaid waivers are designed to provide services in the home and community to make it possible for our loved one with special needs to stay with us or stay in the community versus care in a more institutional setting. So that's a really good thing. They use the term waiver program because even from the youngest of ages, a child with special needs can become eligible for a waiver, receive waiver services, and have disability Medicaid at the same time. The eligibility is based on the recipient's income, not the parents'. So parents' assets and income simply don't matter. But the actual consumer, the young person or young adult receiving waiver services, their total income has to stay under $2,382 and their available resources under $2,000. In Indiana, we have several waiver programs. And so there is the Family Supports Waiver and the Community Integration Habilitation Waiver. That waiver, those waivers are through the Bureau of Developmental Disability Services, the BEADS offices. And then there's the Aged and Disabled Waiver TBI for traumatic brain injury, and the choice program, and those are managed through the Area Agency on Aging. So for Central Indiana, the BEADS office, for most of us, is at Kessler and Keystone in Indianapolis. If one is in Madison County, it rolls up to Muncie. And then Socoa, or the Central Indiana Area on Aging, which is located near 86th and Keystone, handles the aged and disabled waiver, the traumatic brain injury waiver, and the choice program. So we have two kind of systems. The BEADS office for the family supports and community integration waivers, that's more focused on developmental or intellectual disability. The aged and disabled TBI and choice programs more on physicality or the medical nature of one's disability. Budgets are available with all of these waivers, and typically the earlier a family engages, the better. And so we're more than happy to help families with the making connections and the application process so that your loved one with special needs is receiving waiver services. With the waiver comes disability Medicaid, and so it's not only a budget for services beyond regular health care, services most often, again, in the home or community, but it's also disability Medicaid for healthcare. So these waivers are really important. Again, please do feel free to take advantage of the free follow-up consultation for assistance with what waiver is appropriate for your loved one. In Indiana, there's also the CHIP programs, Children's Health Insurance Program, as well as the Children's Special Care Needs Program. These are means tested, so if the family financially qualifies and the child has a diagnosis that's, so to speak, on the list, then there are extra services available under those programs as well. Okay, at this point, we're going to move from government programs over to special needs trusts. And I do want to pause. Now, it looks like we may have one question, okay, that says feel free to ask questions. Okay, do we have any questions before we move on to special needs trusts? Again, questions before we move on to special needs trusts on government programs, SSI, Ssdi, Medicaid, waivers, etc. Any? Okay. All right. Special needs trust, we'll spend a few minutes on this. Here we go. Wonderful. Hopefully the PowerPoint is showing. If not, if someone would unmute and let me know, please.
Gordon, it looks great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, there are two types of government benefits. We just covered those. There are the entitlement benefits in category 1 that's earned as a result of Social Security taxes paid by the consumer or a parent. And then there are the need-based, which is primarily the Medicaid and the SSI. Resources have to, again, be kept under $2,000, and a special needs trust is a vehicle to supplement the benefits that the government provides. So what we try to do is have the government do as much heavy lifting as possible, and then if there's a special needs trust in place, then that helps fund the everything else. So if they're fortunate to have like part-time employment, then that helps. Government benefits help. Then the trust basically brings it home and makes up the difference. So a special needs trust can be set up with the help of an attorney, or there is the ARC Master Trust for a pool trust arrangement. So a trust is set up and it can be funded by anyone: grandparents, great aunts and uncles, godparent, neighbor, friend, or even a GoFundMe account if you like. But the resources that flow into a trust can be invested, and they're there to help pay for things that the government can't or won't provide for. This legislation for special needs trust dates back to 1993, the Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act of 19. Set up to send a dependent with special needs to camp take vacations, travel to visit relatives, technical training, extra care, day-to-day maintenance. There's just all kinds of needs and wants, so to speak. Going to concerts, sporting events, Disney World. Special Needs Trust can make all things possible as a result of funding that it has. If properly drafted, proceeds placed in the trust do not affect government benefits. So there can be a combination of Medicare, Medicaid, waiver services, Social Security disability, part-time employment, and a special needs trust as well. So you get all of these vehicles moving in concert to advocate for an individual with special needs, and the quality of life soars. It's really remarkable, and helps to explain my excitement and my passion to help families with these issues. As to who should establish a special needs trust, it's all about being concerned about a loved one. So it's a caregiver or donor can establish a third-party trust. If someone is concerned about who will take care of them when I'm not around, or how can I pass on a part of my estate, such as life insurance proceeds, leftover retirement funds, property, how can I pass that on? How can they benefit from what I have been able to save or accumulate without undermining their government benefits? And in most cases, it's by using a special needs trust. So coordinating resources, ensuring continuation of government benefits, providing supplemental needs, improving quality of life, and then directing final distributions, all part of the process. How does it work? The trust stipulates how monies are to contributed to the trust or used for the beneficiary. These are state specific. So if someone's set up a trust out of state and moved to Indiana, we should take a look at that. The trust document names a trustee. The trustee can be a family member, close friend, an attorney, or there are institutional trustees as well, like bank trust departments. And then again, there is the ARC of Indiana Master Trust in a pool trust arrangement. The trustee is obligated to act both in accordance with the trust and, of course, for the benefit of the trust beneficiary. There are many ways that special needs trusts can be created to fit the needs of the family. So there are lots of special needs trusts, and most people are not aware. They think there's one special needs trust, but as you can see, there are a number of different types, and it's really important to get the right special needs trust for your situation. That's why it's so important to take advantage of the free follow-up consultation, where we can take a look at any planning that you may have already done and ascertain what type of trust you currently have, and if it is the trust that would provide maximum advantage for your loved one with special needs. We'll take a look at these briefly, individually, starting with the first party trust. This is also known as a self-settled trust, and it's typically funded with monies belonging to the individual with a disability. So it was established as a result of OBRA 93 back in 1993 and enhanced in 2016, where a disabled individual with capacity can actually set up their own first party trust. Beneficiary must meet the definition of disability. It is irrevocable and generally available for individuals with disabilities under the age of 65. At the time of their death, the state will or does have the ability to step in and seek to reimburse themselves for Medicaid benefits afforded the individual with a disability. So these are not trusts that we simply accumulate and build. We use these trusts to pay bills and to meet the needs and wants of the individual with special needs, so that there's not a lot left for the state at the time of their passing. But you might say, why is the Medicaid payback on this? And the answer is because the disabled person's own money is typically what goes into this type of trust. And so they're able to offload money in order to qualify for Medicaid, waiver services, and other government benefits. So that's the reason for the Medicaid payback, because the monies that otherwise would disqualify them for benefits can be placed in the trust. And then fortunately, it can be spent from to meet their needs and their wants. Third party special needs trust is next. And this is the type of trust that parents and grandparents and other family members use, meaning not money belonging to the individual with a disability. That's the first party. This is for everybody else's money. And fortunately, as a result of that, no Medicaid payback. When something happens to the family member with special needs, the funds stay with the family. So they go to the special needs sibling or other family members as stated in the trust. So again, no Medicaid payback, which is very powerful. For that reason, there's really little downside to a well-funded special needs trust, because if all of it is not needed, what's left over gets to stay with the family. There's also a qualified disability trust. And if one special needs trust qualifies for this, there's special tax treatment, in which case there's what's called a $4,300 tax exemption. And that's the level for 2021. But that would mean if a special needs trust qualifies as a qualified disability trust, the first $4,300 of capital gains, interest, and dividends would not be subject to tax. So that's pretty powerful. The trust would have to be irrevocable and the trust beneficiary under the age of 65 and meet the Social Security definition of disability. Typically not too much trouble. We're going to move through that. Pool trust is the ARC of Indiana here, local. That's the most popular. And they would serve as trustee and they would manage the funds in the ARC trust account. In some situations, it's extremely helpful. When resources are limited and you want to make sure they last, and the trustee can spend from the trust sparingly. That's one example where the ARC trust can be very helpful. Another case is where you have no idea as to who might serve as trustee. There's no family member, no close friend, and you're really struggling as to who might be in charge of the trust for your loved one. And the ARC certainly would be an option. A Miller trust is primarily used when the total income for the loved one with special needs is rising above the $2,382 per month. And as a result, their Medicaid and waiver services are at risk. And so this usually is the case when one is drawing a large benefit off of a parent. And so when your Social Security benefit gets up into that $1,500 to $2,000 range because of a parent's retired or deceased, then with either a little part-time income or this type of thing, it's easy to get north of $2,382 a month. That's when we look at utilizing a Miller trust in order to keep them eligible for Medicaid and their waiver services. So Miller trusts are becoming a little more common as our loved ones with special needs are living longer, that is outliving the parents and receiving these large Social Security benefits. Okay. All right, talks about the responsibilities for a trustee and then how to fund. And trust can be funded from life insurance, retirement funds, property, all kinds of options available for what might fund a trust. You do not have to have anything to fund the trust today. A trust can be set up and it can remain empty until the death of a parent or parents. In some cases, grandparents are helpful in getting a little money into a special needs trust. So, but some people think trust, you have to have a lot of money, and the answer is no, you don't. Getting a trust set up can be relatively inexpensive, and it's not necessary to fund it today. So it's not necessary to have any money to put in the trust. It can sit there and wait for the death of the parent or something. It can wait 10 years or 20 years or whatever. But it's important to have it there so that the consumer or the loved one with special needs does not inherit directly, undermining their eligibility for benefits. Okay, at this point, we're going to move on to ABLE accounts. But before we do, what questions does anyone have on special needs trusts? Questions on special needs trust? If you have a question, please unmute yourself and feel free to speak right up. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. We're waiting on ABLE to come up. Okay. And we will reshare and go to ABLE. Okay, and if someone would be kind enough to confirm that ABLE account is showing on the screen,
Looks great. Thank you.
you bet. Okay. The ABLE accounts will close out the remainder of our hour talking about because there's exciting news there. These go back only about 6 or 7 years, and legislation was passed. It was called the ABLE Act, renamed the Stephen Beck Jr. Act because of Mr. Beck's working so hard for the last 7 years of his life to get this act passed. And literally on the eve of the act passing, he passed away. And so to honor him, it was renamed. It was patterned after 529 college accounts. And these are really the first opportunity for individuals with a disability or special needs to have their own savings or investment account, to have more than $2,000 and not have it count against them. So pretty exciting stuff. In 2017, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act enhanced ABLE, and we will talk about how ABLE has grown here momentarily. To be eligible, the disability at this point needs to have originated before the age of 26. There is a move afoot to further enhance ABLE, and that age limit may go up to 40-something. So we're looking forward to positive changes with ABLE, but at least at this time, the disability needs to originate before 26. Even if a person is not fully disabled at the time they set up the account, it's just that the disability journey needs to have started before 26, meaning if they're disabled as a result of an auto accident that occurred at age 30, they're not eligible. Okay, so, and they either need to be receiving SSI or Ssdi, and if not, to have medical documentation such as a letter of certification from a licensed physician documenting their disability, their diagnosis. Okay, the limit, $15,000 per year. You can put in up to $15,000 to these ABLE accounts per year. They are taxed similar to Roth accounts, meaning after tax dollars go in, they grow tax-free, and withdrawals are tax-free. So once monies go into an ABLE, it's tax-free from there on out. ABLE accounts have to stay under $100,000 to maintain eligibility for SSI. If one's balance goes above $100,000, then SSI is cut off or suspended, and then it would be reinstated after the account balance drops back down under $100,000. Okay, for Medicaid, the limit in Indiana is $450,000. We're not seeing account balances that large anyway, but nevertheless, those are the limits. An individual can only have one single ABLE. So if you have 2 or 3 grandparents, they cannot be all setting up ABLE accounts for their grandchild with special needs. It is the grandchild's account, actually, and only one single account, but multiple people can certainly contribute or make contributions, just so in a calendar year, total contributions do not exceed $15,000. Changes brought about in 2017. One is the ability to roll over a 529 account. So if parents set up a 529 for their loved one with special needs, but it looks like that it's not going to be used for college or post-secondary education, there is an opportunity to roll it over tax and penalty free to an ABLE account. So that's new. Also, in some cases, retirement funds. So if they have a part-time job and that involved their being contributing or being enrolled in a 401k, if they leave that employer, that retirement account can be a problem. And so in some instances, retirement account balances can be transferred into an ABLE account. At the bottom, I do want to mention that if they have earned income, that is, they maybe have a part-time job or something, that raises the limit as to what can be contributed. The maximum for 2021 is an extra $12,760. So that really takes the limit up considerably to over $27,000. Okay, often asked, well, what can an ABLE be spent on? So if we get money in there, what can we use it for? And here you go. The list is quite lengthy and has expanded over the years. So there's much less concern these days about how one might use their ABLE dollars. Lots of things that ABLE account money can be spent on. There is a Medicaid payback. The state of Indiana is not currently enforcing the Medicaid reimbursement, but nevertheless, the potential exists that upon the death of the account holder, because their own money is welcome in the ABLE account. And usually this is the rule of thumb. if the disabled person's own money is in the account or going into the account, such as the first party special needs trust or the ABLE account, you're going to involve a Medicaid lien or Medicaid payback. Most states have adopted ABLE. Indiana has the Invest ABLE program. Invest ABLE, kind of run it together for investable. Kentucky and Ohio have something called Stable. Most of these plans are self-help, meaning you go online and set up your own ABLE account. The one exception is the Virginia ABLE plan, which is ABLE America, and it is sponsored by American Funds, the well-known mutual fund company. And in the case of the Virginia ABLE America plan, an advisor such as myself can set up the account for you. So in the case of Virginia, you can have help setting it up. An advisor can set it up for you. Otherwise, it's to log on and go to the website and establish it on your own, kind of a self-help type of thing. Okay, the Indiana plan does have a debit card. So people often ask, well, how can I get a hold of the money? How can I access it or spend it? Most common would be a debit card, or reimbursement could be requested from the account in the form of a check or electronic transfer. There is a website for ABLE, the National Resource Center for ABLE. It's www.ablenrc for National Resource Center.org. So it's a clearinghouse for all states' ABLE information. There's a lot of information there. Okay, so things to consider with regards to an ABLE account. These are situations where an ABLE may not be the best fit. So please keep this in mind: inheritances, settlements, judgments, or contributions from family or beneficiary that exceed the maximum. So if we're talking $25,000, that's not a good fit for ABLE because of the $15,000 maximum. Contributions are not coming from the individual with a disability, meaning they're coming from other people, a third party, a grandparent or something. In that case, it may be wise to consider a third-party trust where there is no Medicaid payback associated with it. Also, if the disability is beyond 26, not a good fit for ABLE at this time, or if the beneficiary cannot make financial decisions. So if there's no guardian that would set up the account for them, meaning there's no legal or adult guardianship in place, ABLE may not be the best idea if a person struggles to handle their finances. An ABLE account can be used in combination with other vehicles such as a special needs trust, meaning it's not either or, a person can have both. ABLE accounts do work extremely well in other situations. So again, the past slide was where maybe it's not a good fit. Here is where maybe it is. So think of an ABLE as a put and take or save and spend type of account. You don't want to amass a large sum of money for the state to potentially take under the Medicaid payback clause. So just 3 quick examples of showing how an ABLE can come to the rescue and be extremely helpful. Example 1, a grandparent dies and leaves $10,000 directly to each grandchild. For the grandchild with special needs, it must be spent, used to prepay their final expenses, or deposited into an ABLE account. So what that means is that the grandparent passes and there's $10,000 coming to this grandchild with special needs. If the $10,000 is redirected to an ABLE account, then we have no resource issue and government benefits are maintained. Example 2, a school bus incident. And by the way, these 3 examples are all real life cases based on actual family situations. Example 1, the grandparents lived in Cincinnati, the grandchild lived here in Indiana, and we worked through that situation. Example 2 was rather tragic. A school bus incident occurred, resulting in a lawsuit. This was a non-ambulatory child, and her wheelchair was not anchored, and it literally rolled out the back of the special needs bus, and she face planted on the asphalt. Again, tragic. Settlement of $15,000 resulted. In that case, that's the child's money. It's not the parent's money. Child is who was injured. And so $15,000 though would have caused the loss of Medicaid, waiver services, etc. However, if put into an ABLE account, it resolves the resource issue. Example 3, an individual with special needs gets a job, resulting in earned income. They want to save some of it for a vacation, for maybe furniture or additional schooling, or perhaps a vehicle. But at the same time, they want to maintain their SSI, their Medicare, their Medicaid, these types of things. An ABLE account allows for funds to accumulate. So bottom line is if they took part of their wage and saved it in an ABLE account, then they could accumulate $3, $4, $5, $6, $8, $10,000 for large purchases that they want to make, and it would not cause a problem with the $2,000 resource limit. So hopefully this kind of helps give you a sense of where ABLE can be extremely helpful or situations that it's well suited to. ABLE accounts within limitations can address resource issues. It does not fix income issues. Example one, we've got a consumer who is receiving SSI and has a part-time job, earns $500 a month. Placing his or her $500 paycheck in an ABLE account would not allow them to avoid the reduction to SSI. So similar to what we were looking at earlier in government benefit issues, but ABLE accounts can solve resource issues, but it does not prevent the effect on government benefits for income issues. Okay. Special needs trusts, they're great to set up. They're easy to maintain, relatively inexpensive. And we work with that on a daily basis. Let's see here. This is my contact information on the screen. And taking advantage of the free follow-up consultation, whether in person or virtual, is as easy as just sending an email to the gholmes@financialguide.com. And then my staff will send out to you a pre-meeting material to assist you in preparing for our time together. And then we can address any of the issues that we talked about this morning or others. That's the last slide for this morning. So we do have about 5 minutes left for Q&A. I have a lot of knowledge that I'm happy to share. Anything that we covered this morning with questions, either government benefits, special needs trusts, or ABLE accounts, any questions that anyone would like to ask? I often get questions about adult child benefits. Most parents are familiar with SSI, but are unaware that their adult child will likely eventually draw off of their Social Security record. And so it has implications on when parents decide to retire. That is the timing of drawing Social Security benefits. There's also family maximums. And so that's an area that gets rather complex and where an individual consultation can be extremely helpful, such as a couple of families just this week. One, a wife whose wages have not been that substantial, trying to decide whether to draw off of her own Social Security record or that of her husband's. And this is a very interesting area because if she draws off of her husband and there's an adult child with special needs that also draws off of her husband or the child's dad, then we're up against the family maximum. And so Social Security decisions that may seem relatively simple under normal circumstances become quite a bit more complex when we have a family member with special needs. So delighted to help families wrangle with these issues. I will tell you that in some instances, with an adult child with special needs, as a result of working through the Social Security issues, we're seeing some family situations where the monthly benefit for the three collective individuals, that is a mom, a dad, and the adult child with special needs, is totaling over $6,000 per month. That's over $6,000 a month in Social Security alone. So it's big ticket items, believe me, really important decisions to be made. I'm going to jump out of screen share now. And again, any questions that anybody would like to ask, we have just a few minutes left before we get to the 10 o'clock mark. Anything at all? Waivers, SSI, Ssdi, Medicaid, Medicare, ABLE accounts?
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself, or you can simply put the question in the chat box and we can read that off to Gordon. I just want to thank you, Gordon, for taking time out of your day today to speak with us about all of the important information that you gave. If anybody has any last minute questions for Gordon, please just unmute yourself or put it in the chat box. I also want to remind the attendees in the WOVA app, if you want to check out the exhibitors tab, make sure you do that when you're going through your different sessions today. So just wanted to remind everybody about that as well. And the community tabs. There's discussions going on in that tab as well.
Okay. All right. Well, does not appear to be any questions at this point. So I appreciate everyone participating, and this will be recorded. And do we know where it'll be posted to?
It will be posted onto the Fuse website. I don't know exactly where, but I'm sure Sarah will let everybody know exactly where to find that.
Okay, wonderful. Again, thanks everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.